Try again. Matthew 28:11. While they were going, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. And when they had assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gave a significant sum of money to the soldiers and said, "Tell people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story has been spread among the Jews to this day. We're going to stop there. Okay. To put this in context, the people had just discovered that the tomb was empty and that there was a brief encounter with Jesus, just a little bit above this, about, hey, I'll be in Galilee, I want you to go there. And then Matthew records this, I don't know, what is that, 4 verses right here, and records this event happening. None of the other Gospels have this little recording in the Gospels, which I'm not really sure I know why. If anyone would have, I would have thought Luke would have had a recording of this on it. But anyways, just FYI, I guess, to that. So in 11, when they start to say, while they were going, I'm presuming they mean the ladies and the people that were encountered with Jesus just before, they were going to head towards Galilee, is the way I held that. And Matthew records, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests. So kind of a separate little story that's happening. You know, it's a split in the storyline, if you will. We've got the ladies going to go tell the disciples and all that, so that's that storyline. And then Matthew puts a little story out about the guards, you know, what happened to the
Meanwhile.
guards. Yeah, it's one of those things. Meanwhile. I find it interesting that it says some of the guards, not all the guards. I don't know if that's because the guards were on shift, you know, so you had, you know, 2 on, 2 off, you know, kind of thing. I don't know why it says the sum of.
Well, yeah, but it also says some of the guards came into the city and reported.
Right.
So usually you wouldn't have your whole contingent go do the report.
Exactly.
It would be
The representatives or
whether it's the head of them or whatever,
Yeah.
the messenger. But so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I never really looked at it.
Yeah.
But whether it's 1 guard, 2 guards, 10 guards, a battalion, who knows?
Yeah.
I think the really interesting thing is who the guards reported to.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're the civil authorities going to the religious leaders.
And a lot of that has to do with that they were assigned to the temple. They were the temple guards. And we see a couple verses back that Pilate, thank you, I was trying to get his name right. This is Pontius, yeah, Pilate, had said, you have guards, use them, basically, is what he said. Because remember, the elders and the Pharisees or whoever was up there were saying, hey, some of his people might take him away, and you know so the first lie may be as worse as the second, or something. Well, I forget what the wording was there, but they were assigned to them. So we have that. So we get to the wise priests and all that taking place. So they told him that, and I really kind of find it funny. Mine says, and taken counsel. This is in verse 12.
Yeah.
When they assembled and also taken counsel. That sounds so wise, doesn't it? Like they were.
Worked it together.
Yeah. I think if I was rewriting the Bible, and I'm not, but if I was, I might say conspired.
That was the word I was going
You know, a little bit more harsher than taking counsel. It just sounds so therapeutic, you know, when you
My version says devised a plan.
devise plan. That's so much
It's a
better.
little more
Yes,
straightforward.
a little bit more. Let's devise as in a scheme, as in the devil type of thing. And they gave him a sufficient sum of money. Why is that important?
Well, and I wonder if these guards that were signed by the Roman government were either second tiered or what, but the Roman soldiers took very much pride in their stopping us, whatever you wanna call it. Sleeping on on duty, on watch, even today is a treasonable or whatever it is affair, and you can be killed on the spot.
The very first thing you learn in boot camp are the 11 general orders, and there are 4 of which I can think of that directly apply to this. One is to always keep on alert, observing everything that takes place in and around your post, not or standing watch until you're properly relieved, and then keeping especially watchful at night. There's 4 of them, and these have been around for hundreds of years. It just keeps on going back. It's like the very basic thing of a soldier, and that's exactly what they're being bought off to do is, hey, you're going to say that you violated the very basics of being a soldier. The number one thing is to just stand the post. And
You're incriminating yourself by
Exactly.
saying I went to sleep. It's like
And
a
it's
death
not a matter
sentence
of
almost.
getting a slap on the wrist, these guys were run through, or whatever the phrase is.
Yep.
But you know, the thing that gets me is they told the priest what happened, and I would think the priest would really be like, wow, maybe he was who he said he was. Because if they said an angel came, well, we got knocked down and all that stuff, like what happened, you'd think that the priest would like be really worried, huh? But anyway, I mean, that's just some of the things I was thinking.
No, I mean, I go back to the fact that I think they knew exactly who he was.
You think
So this didn't surprise them at all.
Yeah.
And that it just makes their whole scheme that much more devious, in that they were doing nothing but trying to protect their power, even if it came to selling out the Messiah. Yeah.
So it's a bribe. I mean, they bribing them to go with the story that they want them to tell.
If there were awards given for the stupidest plan ever
Yeah.
made on, on
Yeah.
mankind, I think they would win. Because this has got to be the dumbest excuse. This is worse than a 7-year-old trying to lie to you. This is awful, because it's like, tell people, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. I'm sorry.
Oh, you know who took them?
You were asleep.
Yeah. How do you know they? Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know? It's the worst line that one could imagine. There surely couldn't been anything like an earthquake came and the rocks fell and hit us on the head.
Yeah.
See, I got a hurt right here, that kind of thing. I mean, surely they could have come up with something better than that.
Well, and how easily their claims are falsified, because Jesus is alive. The women saw him. The women told the disciples. He's going to Galilee. He's going to be seen
Right.
in and around Galilee. Like it's
Yeah.
so easy to falsify.
Yeah. Now, I think it's important to state that I don't think the guards came up with the lie. Right. Because it said in earlier verses that they fell asleep like dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they fainted is basically what happened. And so it wasn't the guards that made this lie, but rather, but they're not innocent because they took the money apparently.
You could have been so scared that they were frozen for a few moments or so.
Right. And so they assure them, and I really wish there was an end to this story, or more of the story here. In 14 it says, and if this comes to the governor's ears,
That you were asleep.
we will satisfy him. Now, how do you think they could satisfy the governor?
They might say them.
They're not gonna pay him off?
Too. Yeah, maybe so.
Well, pay them off or promise to keep peace among the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
because that was as valuable as gold to
Yeah, I guess so,
to
yeah.
the governor.
And keep you out of trouble.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, famous
Well,
words.
the governor may not execute him, but his sergeant or whatever. will
Yeah,
certainly-
exactly. Yeah. Did they have enough money to retire from the military? I don't know if they had that kind of a thing where you could, retire or quit. I don't know if that's a lifetime service or not for the Romans.
Well, I do know that certain Rome soldiers were given something when they retired.
Yeah.
Usually land. I'm thinking more of the head guys.
Yeah.
They were given a house and land to retire to.
Yeah, we call those officers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no idea what the
Enlisted,
common folks,
right,
if they
yeah.
got anything at all.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So they took the money, I'm assuming that means the guards, and did as they were directed. This story has been spread among the Jews to this day. So I actually did a Google search trying to find out if it was really being told this way today. And everything that I found just repeats this phrase, that this was being told, but that there were many other reasons for not believing the resurrection given. Lots of, like, for example, Jesus never really died, fainted, right?
Yeah.
So he got up and left, kind of thing.
Yeah, the tomb was cool. and-
Right.
Yeah, but then how he rolled the stone away from the inside.
Yeah, I mean, you can break everything apart
Yeah.
going on here. So it was interesting. What I wanted to talk about was something that I think it's Paul in 1 Corinthians, I think it is. So we're bringing my notepad up here. Whoops. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, 13 through 18. Bible here. Oh, paper is so much easier to get to. Actually, I'll start in 12. It says, "Now if Christ is proclaimed as raised from the dead, how can some of you say that there is no resurrection of the dead?" And that's talking about the Sadducees and et cetera, about their not belief in the resurrection of the dead. 13, "But if there is no resurrection of the dead, then not even Christ has been raised. And if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is in vain and your faith is in vain. We are even found to be misrepresenting God because we testified about God that he raised Christ, whom he did not raise, if it is true that the dead are not raised." And he keeps on going on into this thing. It really is about why would we, the disciples, continue this lie? And in history, none of the disciples came back and said, "Oh, by the way, Christ was not, really resurrected. We just made the whole thing up." Kind of thing. They did it all the way through death. And if it,
And it caused them death.
yeah, and it caused them to die, yes.
If they were afraid, while Jesus was alive, thinking, when he died on the cross, they were afraid. Why would they risk their lives after he's dead if they thought he, didn't rise again?
Right.
If they were afraid before, why would they risk their lives now that he's gone? So
It's funny because the people who are really risking their lives are the chief priests in eternity. The disciples are saving their lives.
Let's see, another spot here. John chapter 21. I think that's right. Verse 9. At least that's what I wrote. Oh, so this is an event afterwards that Christ was resurrected, and Jesus was barbecuing on the beach, basically. When they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire, verse 9, charcoal fire in place, with fish laid out and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you've caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish and stuff like that. Why would Jesus be recorded on these other events that are after the resurrection? So many witnesses that saw him. Some people say that you shouldn't use the Bible as a reference for proof of the Bible, right? So you look at other historical accounts, other writers, Josephus, Ticius, and other people that were writing history around that same time, and every one of them fully agreed that Jesus was around. Well, first of all, that Jesus died, because there were some that believed that he didn't even die,
Oh, yeah.
at all. That he was seen and he was seen after his recorded death by other people, and was recorded in Ticius and in Josephus' journals that he was still alive after the so-called death that had occurred. So we do have other historical documents that,
Mhm.
that back this up. So how could he be, why would they have him fishing, right?
And I wonder,
Or barbecuing.
well, there's two folds to that. One is, he's resurrected, but yet he still has bodily needs, if you will. He's still gotta eat. You know, or at least he appears to have a need to eat. But I guess the other thing is, some of the other religions, like Mohammedanism, Muslim, do they believe that he was resurrected or not? I know he was a prophet. Nobody denies that he existed. But I'm not sure about some of these other religions, if they believe that he was resurrected or just died and they
No,
kind of
I
ignore
don't,
that
I
part.
don't think any of the other ones believe that he resurrected.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, I think they.
So they're like the Jews.
They
believe he
recognize him as
existed,
being a prophet, right?
But not, that's the
Right,
main differentiation.
right.
But the good thing that we read about is that they saying, when they're talking about Jesus, is a lot of people that saw him are still alive. You could ask them.
Right.
It wasn't like just us that saw him. So many others saw him too.
Right.
You know?
At the time that the Gospels were
Yeah.
written, it was so soon after the
So
event
soon, you know,
that there
they
were people that were actually
could
there.
verify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's a good witness for us. To know that.
That's what they talk about. A lot of the famous history books were written hundreds, if not thousands of years after the event where the Bible was written. I mean, the first accounts were written, within
40 years
20,
after,
yeah.
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 And I think Jesus was doing a lot of this too because he's going to be leaving them soon, and they get a feel of how it's when he wouldn't be with them. But then he was reassuring the things he was trying to teach them, so that when he would be gone, they would be more firm in their faith and all concerning him. But
Okay, so it brings to mind another stupid question. If that was such a great plan, why isn't Jesus still walking around today? Why introduce, I don't want to call it doubt, but why make things more complicated? Wouldn't it just be simpler that if Jesus, once he rose, and
Stay
just stay here and be
Yeah.
present, so that there would be no doubt, right? I mean, everybody would, you're born, you go walk by, hey, Jesus, and, you would believe, right? Why?
because it's not part of the plan.
That's a cop-out answer if I've ever heard one, right there.
But it's so true.
It's by faith.
It is true.
It's grace by faith. It's belief. But then Jesus said, if I leave, then the Comforter will come, and you'll even do more things because I'm going to be in every one of you, and I'm going to be living my life through you. So I'll still be with you. But then being our advocate, he's up there fulfilling the high priest role, representing us in heaven before the Father. So it's all still part of the plan. But yeah, so even other things like, what if he would have come off the cross and, okay, I am who I said I was. Of course, salvation would not be, for us. He had to die because that was part of the curse, was the death. But yeah, well, as God's sovereign, I don't know why he does some of the things he does.
He had already completed the mission. I mean, he had conquered death, and what else more was there? And without getting too far into next week, I mean, if he's around, then what's the need for disciples?
Yeah, I think he was staying around us for them, to prepare them. He fulfilled his mission. He came from the Father, he did his mission, and he's going back to the Father, but that's part of the plan. Yeah.
It's like when a leader steps aside and let his people do the job that he's been training them to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done everything he needs.
Or a parent stepping aside and letting the child.
He's
you know.
including us in his work. It might have something to do with the future even, because of what he's doing right now.
giving us the opportunity to populate heaven by our actions here on earth.
Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking that, I think even in the Old Testament it talks about you people constantly want a sign. You want something to carry you with you, to carry your faith, if you will. But what is faith without that challenge? Without that constantly being held?
There is no faith.
There is no faith, right?
If you can see it, then faith's not required.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was my stupid question. Because it would be so much easier, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It would just, he could go on tour, if you will. We could have a Jesus bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could
I'm
go on tour.
sure nowhere in here did it say that we're supposed to have an easy path.
What? Wait a minute. Everything is supposed to be easy and given to
This
us.
is the
What's-
road less traveled
what
and
is-
all that sort of stuff.
What are you talking about? Come on. I deserve to have everything given to me. Sorry. Slipping into something else. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, we're believe it or not, we're going to stop here unless you have some other comments, because don't really want to get into the next section with
Don't
just
want to get
six
into anything?
with just 6 minutes left.
Okay.
With it.
I heard him say he just didn't want to read the Bible.
I didn't want to. Okay,
I heard. I don't know
I'm in
if
trouble
you
now.
heard me, but
Yeah.
that's-
Well, it's a good thing I can edit the YouTube video, so I can just nip that right out. Any other things about this? I just find it fascinating that the world's lousiest excuse, you know, was offered, and that
But it's been revalidated, repeated enough, so therefore it must be true.
you mean to say a lie long enough that people will believe it?
And that philosophy has still continued to this day.
Well, you know, there's an interesting thing that people believe what they want to believe. We call it bias confirmation, right?
Right.
Yeah. You know,
It-
Christ couldn't have been risen. Well, okay, yeah, the guards were just asleep. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the answer.
And repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
That
You'll believe it.
It doesn't, if it doesn't fit your paradigm, it doesn't fit your
Right.
way of thinking, then you just,
Well, even the media today, if you repeat it over and over and over again,
Right.
say it enough,
Say it
and then you
enough times.
believe it.
That's
I
right.
mean, how many times, and I'm sure that there's things that I remember as a child that I'm remembering wrong.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. But in my mind, I've replayed it so many times
Yeah.
that I'm convinced this is what happened.
Oh, yeah.
I think the cops have said one of the worst, even though the laws are a little bit different, one of the worst facts of a case is someone's eyewitness account.
It's
Sure,
the
say
least
that.
reliable. Least reliable.
At least reliable, even though that's what gets people in trouble and all that, is
Yeah.
not so much because they're lying necessarily, but even if they're truly trying to say the same thing, they're looking at it through a certain lens.
Right.
And from their angle,
Yeah.
and what they want to believe or
Exactly.
not believe, or.
I swear my whole family is lying to me about my childhood, because I don't remember anything that they claim that I did. So I swear they're just lying to me. So that's how reliable memory is.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible, so.
Right. So it's a good thing we have so many witnesses in the scripture for
You know,
that.
we have the scripture itself, because if you didn't have something that we could rely on as truth, then you really
Absolutely.
would be weighed, you know, but
Yeah.
because everything else proves how you can trust it, and so that
And
if somebody hears the truth and they have something to put it against, you know, but
it is, as crazy as this sounds, one of the biggest validations for me about Christianity is what I think you said, Vicki, is everybody, no one denies Jesus was here and did these things. You know, all the other religions even say, yeah, he's a prophet. They name him something different, or they try to put him in a different box, but it's not like it's just this figure that we don't know ever really showed up.
Yeah.
That there's accounts everywhere that Jesus was alive, he did certain things, and whether it was an earthquake or whether he caused it, okay, that's a different story, but they admit that he was here. And to me, that gives me a lot of comfort. Well, comfort's the right word, but validation that he's here. It's not just some alien that, you know, dropped down and, you know,
Right.
type thing. So
Right. Absolutely.
but from that point on from that point on is the point that we're called to live by, right? Because all these people say Jesus existed, right? And so we can hang our hat on the fact that, you know, they've got all of these accounts of Jesus existing. But from that point on, God says, yeah, I understand that it's all there, but without faith,
oh, I agree.
without faith, it's impossible to please me. Yeah, you've got proof of all of this, but without faith, it's impossible to please me. You know, and that's
But I guess for me, it gives my faith a jumping off point.
oh yeah,
As opposed to down in the ditch somewhere, I'm up on the mountain jumping off. with the faith aspect.
Right.
I know this is a weird way of saying it, never really thought of it that way,
Right.
but you're right, it's faith, there's no doubt about it. But I'm starting off in a very solid place.
Yes.
In my mental
Absolutely.
way of saying it.
And when you look at the lives of the disciples after his resurrection, to see how bold they were and that they were willing to die,
Yeah.
that just verifies that
Yeah.
there's no more fear because they knew he conquered death. And like, hey,
And they could have denied it. They had the chance to say,
oh, yeah.
you know, all right, I renounce my Christianity, or whatever the terminology they would have used, and they would have lived.
Right.
Yeah.
But they persisted.
Just go back to Fisher.
They were so
Say, well,
changed.
we thought he was
Remarkably
Messiah,
changed.
we'll wait for another one.
You look at Peter in Acts,
Yeah.
how completely different
Yeah.
he is,
Mhm.
and all the others, and their acts, if I can call it that,
Right.
are completely different.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, I swear we have to stop here. What are you guys paying for?